What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine coming to you live at youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us anywhere you get your podcast. And as always, find all of my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, haven't been scrolling the internet, haven't been looking on Twitter, YouTube, wherever for the last 3 days, the Pittsburgh Steelers have plenty of action surrounding them, and it seems to be on the offensive side of the football. The Pittsburgh Steelers are reportedly trying to find some sort of trade to add to their arsenal as they head into the second week of OTAs, eventually minicamp, and then head to Latrobe for training camp. There are a few names that have emerged as options. There are more out there, I'm sure. We're diving into what I have heard, what the Pittsburgh Steelers are currently doing, some back and forth reporting on one pretty big name, and then, well, on the other side of all that, who's throwing them the football? It's believed to be Aaron Rodgers, but the Pittsburgh Steelers, they may be coming to a point where they are over the nonsense and the drama that Aaron Rodgers has brought to the organization. We're diving into all of that plus more. I hope everybody enjoyed a lovely weekend in the city of Pittsburgh. As always, shout out to our members, shout out to our super chatters. And with that said, let's start with the biggest name that emerged this weekend, and that is Jonnu Smith out of Miami. The Dolphins tight end has some familiarity with Arthur Smith, plenty of it. To be honest, they played together in Tennessee. They played together in Atlanta, or I guess they worked together in Tennessee and they worked together in Atlanta when Arthur Smith, now the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. And then before that, the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. Smith became a stud in Tennessee. He emerged as the guy that replaced Delanie Walker, then went on to do big and great things throughout his NFL career. He's 29 years old. He'll become 30 before the season. He is certainly a name that amongst those receiving options that may be available stands out. Jonnu Smith is a guy that is as reliable as they come at the tight end position, is a name that certainly helps in the receiving game, no matter who your quarterback is. And you know what they say, a quarterback's best friend is always a good tight end. And if the Steelers are thinking tight end heavy offense, and that's how they're going to win the receiving game, well, there's pros and there are cons to that situation. But the Pittsburgh Steelers were reportedly in on Jonnu Smith. Then, friend of the show, Mark Caboli, went on 93.7 The Fan and said that the Pittsburgh Steelers were not in on Jonnu Smith and that they don't have interest in Jonnu Smith, probably because he comes with too much money. He is seeking a larger contract than the one he currently has, and he wants to stay in Miami, which to the Steelers just means another hostage and not a volunteer. I've made some phone calls. I've spoke to some people. Jonnu Smith's name has come up. Obviously, he is the name that has sparked all of many reports, and we'll dive into more of them, obviously, but it starts very simply with Caboli isn't far off. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't have much interest in Jonnu Smith. They are seeking a receiving option. They want another receiver on their roster. They want someone to come in here and replace George Pickens and be that guy next to DK Metcalf, and they're hoping to find that guy relatively soon. And I thought that they would slow it down and go into the summer and then make that decision after seeing Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, but apparently they've seen all that they need to see and that the Steelers are ready to make a move. What that move is going to be, we'll dive into some options here in a minute, but nothing is truly set in stone as to if they're going splashy or if they're going small. The Pittsburgh Steelers are somewhat open to everything. At least that's what I've been told, but they are open to adding and wanting to add a receiving option. Throughout the Jonnu Smith situation, many things have come out. Darnell Washington's name was the biggest one that was out there, saying he may be part of the trade for a Jonnu Smith with the Miami Dolphins. Maybe, maybe not. The Pittsburgh Steelers are high on Darnell Washington. I don't think that they see him as the elite pass catching option that some of the fan base hopes he turns into. I don't think they ever see him as a 1,000-yard receiver, maybe even a 500-yard receiver in the NFL. They view him as a strong blocking option, a guy who's going to come in here and be a part of the run game and be able to contribute in the passing game heading into year 3 of his NFL career. They may have seen a lot of what they're going to get in the receiving game from Darnell Washington. They obviously like Darnell Washington. He remains their tight end too, but the Steelers, I don't think, would have looked at Darnell and said, he's the reason that we're not going to trade for Jonnu Smith. He's the reason that we're going to hold back on another receiving tight end because we have Darnell Washington. They view him more as a blocker, which, makes a ton of sense. He's a massive human being. This is what he excels in. But I still think that he has value in the receiving game, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking to draw at least some of that. They are not ruling out a tight end addition, obviously. Names like Kyle Pitts have been floated around, and I'm not saying the Steelers are high on Kyle Pitts or going to get Kyle Pitts. What I'm saying is that I wouldn't rule out a Kyle Pitts rumor floating around there in the next couple of days that the Steelers are looking at Atlanta and saying, maybe we add another familiar face for Arthur Smith. Kyle Pitts is probably cheap. He's a name that, broke Atlanta's rookie receiving record in a Falcons uniform with Arthur Smith calling the plays. Has obviously gone downhill since. He's real hit or miss, I believe, as a player that you're going to trade for, but just tossing it out there right now that I would not rule out those rumors starting to emerge over the next couple of days. That's all I'd say on that. I wouldn't say that it's likely. I wouldn't say he's my favorite for the Steelers to go get. I'm just saying more of a heads up. Expect it to happen. Expect those rumors to emerge. But Jonnu Smith, not a name that, in my eyes, at least from what I've been told, is a name that the Pittsburgh Steelers have much interest in. Have they called about players? Yes, they've called several teams about several players looking to add some sort of weapon to their offense in the coming days or weeks. Maybe the Miami Dolphins were one of those teams that they called. I would imagine that they called most teams looking to make a move, but I wouldn't say he's high on their list. There's another name that's been floated out there, and that's Trey Palmer of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the speedy receiver who 2 years ago went on a rampage in the preseason against the Pittsburgh Steelers, made them look like fools, and opened up a lot of questions about how bad their cornerback room really was. Since then, they've obviously added plenty to their corner room, and they've done a lot to their secondary, but they liked Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer's a speedy guy out of Tampa Bay. He's obviously pretty far down the depth chart with the Buccaneers where we currently stand because you have guys like Chris Godwin returning, Mike Evans still being there. They added Emeka Egbuka. They have McMillan, who is an emerging wide receiver. Trey Palmer seems to be a little bit deeper on their list. I don't mind Trey Palmer. And Nick Fairbaugh was the one that reported that one, or Zachary Smith, out of Around the 412, reported that one. I did get it confirmed that they've called the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looking to ask about trades. And then I just assumed Trey Palmer was the name there. I didn't get details on who they specifically asked for, but we will believe Zach. I believe most of what Zach says. And, well, Trey Palmer seems to be the name. Speedy guy, and it kind of gives you an idea of where they stand and how wide the spectrum is for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. And that is that Chris Olave was the name that they called earlier in the offseason. They said, hey, New Orleans, you got a lot going on right now. If you are willing to give up a Chris Olave superstar, we'll make a move for him. We'll make that trade. We're going to get rid of George Pickens. We would like to have another superstar wide receiver under our belt so that as we move forward, DK Metcalf and whoever, hopefully Chris Olave, are the names to watch leading our receiving core. But it goes all the way down to a Trey Palmer who comes in here and isn't a wide receiver 2, but really another wide receiver 3 that fits the bill that the Pittsburgh Steelers are saying boosts their room. I think last year the problem was they had a bunch of wide receiver 4s they didn't need a bunch of wide receiver 4s. They needed a wide receiver 2. This year, they're hoping Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin are wide receiver 2. Robert Woods is wide receiver 3. And then you could have a Trey Palmer who's also a wide receiver 3, or a Trey Palmer-esque player, somebody in that same ballpark as Trey Palmer. Do I think it fixes anything? To be honest with you, a little bit, but not enough. Trey Palmer obviously adds more talent to the Steelers wide receiver room. He adds another guy who probably has untapped potential when a lot of these guys have, reached their ceiling. You're not getting more out of Robert Woods. You're not getting more out of Scotty Miller. You're not getting more out of Ben Skoranek. You have your guys there. Trey Palmer would come in here and be a name that maybe he starts here and could go up to here. And that's not a superstar, but maybe he's a quality number 3. Maybe Calvin Austin has untapped potential, and Roman Wilson certainly has untapped potential, and the Steelers are viewing it as I'm not sold on Trey Palmer. I'm not trying to convince anybody that that's the move that works. And I don't think it replaces George Pickens at all. But what I do think is that the Pittsburgh Steelers are opening up themselves to many options, and as many as they could possibly open themselves up to. The reason that Trey Palmer is out there and they called about him is just because that's what they did. They called about him. They said, okay, can we look at a guy and say, can we fix it without fixing it directly? Can we fill the hole of George Pickens without filling it with one player? Maybe Trey Palmer is in that boat, but I'm sure there are many other names out there who also fit the bill. The big, most important thing here is that the Pittsburgh Steelers are ready to make a move. And that's significant because they're going to make a move. They're not going to wait it out. They're not going to dive into, oh, okay, we'll wait till training camp and we'll see who else is available. They're ready to make a move now. And the NFL slows down pretty significantly over the next 2 weeks. And from there, we enter the abyss where very little gets done, but the Steelers are looking to make something happen. I think that that's important. I don't know if they're going to fix it. I don't know if Trey Palmer makes me say the Steelers win a single more game than they would without Trey Palmer. But I do think that having a sense of urgency to get this done reflects well on Omar Khan and the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they do it correctly, then great. Don't tie yourself. And here's the thing. Don't tie yourself to one player. If I could send advice to the Pittsburgh Steelers, open yourself up to all of the players and then decide what your list is of realistic options. Chris Olave was trying to become a realistic option. It didn't happen. Maybe Trey Palmer is. Maybe Jonnu Smith a little bit is. Maybe Kyle Pitts a little bit is. Maybe at some point a Noah Brown or a John Mechie or a McMillan or a Romeo Dobbs all become more available than they are right now. Maybe a Sterling Shepard becomes a little bit more available than they are right now, when the Steelers could say, okay, this is our list. Who do we pull from? And I think that's the best way to go about it, because the problem in years past is that the Steelers wanted one wide receiver and they didn't get that wide receiver. This year it's, okay, let's call every team and let's see what our options are and let's see if our options can work well. I think that's the way to go about it. I think it's the correct way to go about it if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I don't view them as a team right now who has the room to mess up. They just don't. And after last year, you don't want to overcorrect. You've already done that with DK Metcalf. Don't overcorrect again by going to get another Van Jefferson or find yourself with a Mike Williams. Take it slow. Open up the door, let everybody in, line them up, and say, these are our options. Who's the best fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers? If I had to guess right now, I would say Trey Palmer's near the top of the list, but I would say that there are 3 to 4 names that we do not even know yet, that I don't know yet, that will emerge over the next month and a half, where the Steelers have more options at wide receiver, more options to trade for them. And I think right now it's Trey Palmer, maybe Jonnu Smith, and I'd imagine Kyle Pitts is on that list as well. maybe something gets done early if it's cheap enough. Trey Palmer is not going for more than a 5th round pick. And if that's the case, you make a move. But we're over here looking at it saying, stay calm. And I think everybody else agrees with me in the slow and steady wins the race this time of year. And as long as the Steelers don't overreact, they're in a good spot. They're in a good spot. All right. That's where we are. Toss your wide receivers in the chat because I want to go through them as realistic options as we dive into questions a little bit later in the show. We do got to talk Aaron Rodgers because there's just more and more that comes of Aaron Rodgers by the day that is just wild to me. And as we sit here today, I mean, I just came back from my brother's bachelor party, and the talk of the town, everybody there, obviously, as I walk in the door, is what's going on with Aaron Rodgers? When's Aaron Rodgers signing? Well, if I had to guess, he's signing by minicamp, but I don't understand how this guy can't show up to OTAs and is showing up to live podcasts and concerts and events and making it look very easily and without question that it is much more of a Aaron doesn't want to be here thing than an Aaron can't be here because of situations. And I think we're reaching a very dangerous point where it comes to that. But first, we got a quick word from our boys over at Factor. Summer is here. More sun, more light, more time to do all the things that make summer so special. And the number one thing you don't want to be doing all summer, spending hours cooking inside. That's where Factor comes in. Factor's chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready in just 2 minutes, taking the hassle out of eating well. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat, perfect for any active lifestyle over summer and beyond. The 45 weekly menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your summer gains and goals. Choose from options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. Factor powers your day sun up to sundown with nutritious breakfasts, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. Factor has your whole day covered. Enjoy more summer. Enjoy more this summer. Get Factor if you want all the flavor and none of the fuss. I love Factor. I've been doing Factor for a while now. It saves me all the time. And now I just got hooked up with their juices, and I slammed 2 or 3 of those things on the 4-hour drive to the bachelor party and then the 4-hour drive back. So shout out to Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/allsteelerstalk50 off and use code allsteelerstalk50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code allsteelerstalk50 off at factormeals.com/allsteelerstalk50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. Factormeals.com/allsteelerstalk50 off. Shout out to our boys over at Factor. Let's talk Aaron Rodgers. This is what came out over the weekend from Tom Pelissero on the Rich Eisen show. He said, quote, "There are people in the locker room who I believe would tell you they're already over this entire thing. They just want to know what's going on, and they're sick of hearing about it, and they're sick of asking about it. They don't want to discuss it anymore." He continued and said, "I can't think of another situation like this since probably the guy who preceded Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay when Brett Favre took all the way to August 18th with the Vikings and then showed up." You're looking at Aaron Rodgers, and we're all looking at Aaron Rodgers, and there are 2 sides of this that blow my mind. The first side is how far he is willing to go without potentially being aware at all of what he's doing to his reputation in Pittsburgh and what he needs to do to overcome it. Now, do I think that Aaron Rodgers cares about what I think, about what you think, about what anybody thinks? No, frankly, I just don't. But I do think that Aaron Rodgers, to some degree, is well aware that every day that passes, more and more are fed up with Aaron Rodgers. I do think that the way he's handled this situation, terrible off the field circumstances or not, has been the complete opposite of how he should be handling this situation. And I think where we stand here today, I do get the feel, just being at OTAs for 1 week, that the Pittsburgh Steelers and those in the locker room are very comfortable saying, if Mason is the quarterback, we're okay. We're going to be just fine. Do I think Mason Rudolph wins you a Super Bowl? No. Do I think he gets you to the playoffs? Maybe. Just maybe. But I'm not super confident in it. I still think Aaron Rodgers is the best bet by a mile for the Steelers in trying to contend and giving yourself a real opportunity. I can't guarantee that opportunity is going to work out, but I do think that's where I stand. I think Mason Rudolph is a number 2. People will ask about Will Howard. He's a significant gap to the number 3. But at this point, I think everybody needs to ask, everybody, how long are you willing to wait? How much drama can you endure? How much other things can you watch Aaron Rodgers do before he signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because that's the crazy part here. It does not matter that he's not at OTAs. No one cares that he's not at OTAs. The players don't care that he's not at OTAs. Darius Slay showed up on day 2 of OTAs. I asked Joey Porter Jr. about him, and he said, yeah, dude, I just met him like 6 hours ago. See how that doesn't bother a soul? Nobody cares. DK Metcalf wasn't there all week 1. I don't know if he's going to show up week 2. TJ Watt's not there. TJ Watt's not showing up. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. What they do care, what everybody cares about, is the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers still do not have an answer. If they had an answer, this is a totally different conversation. There is no conversation. It's the Stephon Diggs partying on a boat with Cardi B. It's the, yeah, all right, you could be upset about the videos that are emerging, but if there were no videos, nobody cares that Stephon Diggs is not at OTAs with the New England Patriots. Just like nobody cares that Chris Boswell is not at OTAs with the Pittsburgh Steelers, or that DK Metcalf's doing whatever he's doing away from the facility. What the issue is that Aaron Rodgers has dragged this out, has made it known constantly that he's not keeping anybody hostage, and that right now he can't commit himself to a team fully because he just doesn't have the capacity outside of the things happening in his real life. Unless you ask him to go on a podcast or to show up at some live event and then hint at the Pittsburgh Steelers, which right now is a week ago, and people are even more pissed about that. Nobody's sitting around going, yeah, but remember he hinted. Everybody's sitting around going, the guy hinted a week ago that he was signing, and then here we are. And the Steelers still, I mean, look at, I talked to people as early as last night, or as late as last night, and the consensus is still the same. The Steelers are communicating with Aaron Rodgers, but he has not told them that he is guaranteed to come, that he's just giving them updates on the things that are happening within his life and the crappy circumstances that are happening within his life. But that's it. At this point, man, the Steelers seem to be over it. The players seem to be more and more over it. I do not think that the Steelers will avoid Aaron Rodgers. I still think he's coming to Pittsburgh. I still think he's going to be the starting quarterback come week 1. I don't think any of that changes. And I think if Aaron Rodgers wins a bunch of games, nobody cares. But I do think that his reaction at Latrobe is not going to be well. I don't think he's going to get an applause when he takes the field at St. Vincent College for the first time. I don't think that it is going to be the warm welcome that he anticipates. And I think by the day, it's becoming weirder and weirder of what to expect when he does arrive. And that is wild to me that we have sunk so far, because this is an issue that a month ago you were looking at just going like, all right, like it's going to happen at some point. It's no big deal. But here we are. And the public appearances are becoming more rapid, and the videos are becoming more rapid. And you're looking at it and you're just saying, it just does kind of feel like Aaron Rodgers is making this worse than it needs to be. And the Steelers players, you definitely get the feel, are feeling somewhat of the same way, which is wild. And I think is not at all going to work in Aaron Rodgers' favor. Because I think two things. it puts the pressure immediately on him to show up and play well. But two, it makes the Aaron Rodgers start slow during the season, the Steelers lose a couple of games early in the season, pressure significantly higher. It makes the noise from the crowd and the fan base and those around the Pittsburgh Steelers significantly louder if the Aaron Rodgers project does not work instantly, because everybody at this point is becoming fans of whoever else, Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, but essentially just fans of anti-Aaron Rodgers. And I do think that it is a negative, a significant negative for what Aaron Rodgers wants to accomplish. And it is crazy to me that he is just very much so okay with this, because what he's doing is setting himself up for an even worse ending than he had in New York if things don't go well. And that is wild. Wild that you're just very okay and comfortable with that. Either Aaron Rodgers is looking at this going, I am way better than anybody will ever anticipate. He is just an egomaniac and does not care, or he's enjoying every second of the attention. I don't know what one it is, but I do feel that this is where we're at. And if the Steelers players are moving on, Mike Tomlin is not going to. You know, just like the Russell Wilson thing and the reports that came out, which have been known, that the Steelers organization was anti-Russell Wilson while Mike Tomlin was pro-Russell Wilson, and then Justin Fields ended up in the bench and then eventually in New York with the Jets. This is Mike Tomlin's decision, and it will be, and the pressure will be on him. But man, Aaron Rodgers is doing him a disservice, and Mike Tomlin, to be quite frank with you, is looking wilder and wilder as we go along in this journey, because if Mike Tomlin lost a bunch of games with Mason Rudolph and then had to test Will Howard and lost even more games with Will Howard, it just looks like you didn't have a quarterback. But if Mike Tomlin loses a bunch of games with Aaron Rodgers, there is legitimate cause for concern that that Mike Tomlin should no longer have a job. That is where we're at. And it's just a situation that is continuing to get worse. And it is wild. Absolutely wild. All right. I won't rant on Aaron Rodgers any longer. I want to start answering your guys' questions. So toss them in the chat. I'm going to get to as many of them as I possibly can. But first, I'm going to take a quick break.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
All right. Shout out to our super chatters. Shout out to our members. Make sure you're calling in to the call-in show for Wednesday. And with that said, let's get it kicking with Eddie the First. If he clears, would Bond be an option at wide receiver? Isaiah Bond is who I'm guessing we're talking about here. Toss it in the regular chat. I'll catch it. But when it comes to Isaiah Bond, potentially, I mean, the Steelers definitely had some interest in a name like Isaiah Bond. Let's look up where he is these days. And look at if he's he's a free agent where we stand today. And I'm going to be honest with you. If he clears and everything looks okay, I would imagine the Steelers are in a spot where they are looking for help and would be open to this type of help. I do. Now, everything would have to be very okay. Like, it would have to be Isaiah Bond is not in trouble anymore. We're okay. We're in the clear. There's no conversation to be had. But I would say yes. I mean, I think he's a speedy guy. He's a little bit overconfident with the I'm going to run a crazy combine thing, and then it didn't happen. But he's got a ton of skill set that you looked at and said, this is a second, third round wide receiver. And then he got the allegations. I don't want to say he got in trouble, but he got the allegations, and things kind of slipped. And the second that he's cleared, if it doesn't take till September, I would imagine teams are on him, and it's quick. The Steelers could be one of those teams. And with Isaiah Bond, I would imagine the Steelers are a prime option because they don't have anybody else, and they would need more in their bag of tricks and have a clear opening at wide receiver. Grayson the Ginger, member for 3 months. No, I'm sorry, I haven't been in the live chat lately. I started working at UPS 6 weeks ago. I still watch, though, and I miss asking you questions. Shout out to Grayson the Ginger. I will say this, shout out to UPS, because I've been waiting on a FedEx package for 2 weeks now. I've called them every single day, and they refuse to do anything for me. I hate FedEx. I know we'll never get a FedEx sponsorship, nor would I accept them, because I'm only taking Factor does cool things, okay? FedEx, and I tell Arthur Smith this all the time, terrible. Maddie, I've been saying Rodgers isn't coming. We literally got played. Honestly, why don't give Howard a shot? Not like Mason is going to do anything crazy for us. I think the issue with Will Howard is that you guys and a lot of people, I don't think everybody, but I do think there would be some who are very high on Will Howard who would be very disappointed at what a 6th-round rookie looks like in the first year of his NFL career. Because it is not like, oh, he struggles. It's like, oh, you are the worst starting quarterback in the NFL by far. That's what you are. Like, again, everybody wants to compare and say, well, Tom Brady, Brock Purdy. Tom Brady didn't play as a rookie. Purdy didn't play until the end of his rookie year. Both of them are 1 in 20 years. And if you judge every other 6th, 7th round quarterback since then and before that, you're going to find very few people who worked out in the 6th round. So Mason at least gives you a shot to the point of, if everything else carries your team, he's not going to lose you the season. Will Howard would probably, and I like Will Howard, and I'm wishing him nothing but the best, and I hope he grows into a starting quarterback. But the expectation for a 6th-round rookie quarterback in his first NFL season is he will lose you more games than he will win you. And with Mason, maybe he doesn't win or lose you any, and at least you're in a middle ground. But I think you set yourself back significantly further than you'd like to be with both Will Howard's progression and as a team if Will Howard is your starting quarterback come week 1. Sean, overall, are over all this Rodgers garbage, sign on the dotted line and let's play some football. Off topic, but going golfing for my birthday weekend and was just curious what clubs you have in the bag. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, I'm not going to lie to you. I spent the weekend at my brother's bachelor party, had a couple of Steelers fans there, and like you get the again, like maybe it was the bruise, maybe it was the this is what you're talking about with a group of dudes for 3 days. It's no idea. But when I walked away, and by the end of the weekend, I was just sitting there going, nobody wants Aaron Rodgers here anymore. Like it's very bad how far he's fallen in the eyes of many. Golf. First off, happy birthday, my friend. Hope it's a good one. When it comes to my bag, I'm rocking some TaylorMade Stealths. I have absolutely no control on the ball. So these things, the forgiveness on these things are wild. I would recommend them to everybody. I'm a big TaylorMade guy, always been a TaylorMade guy. But I'm rocking some TaylorMade Stealths. My wedges are mostly Cleveland's. Got a couple of mix and match TaylorMades in there, but mostly Cleveland's. But yeah, and father-in-law just got a new set of Wilsons over the weekend for an early Father's Day present. So, it's golf season, guys. It was 40 degrees yesterday in Pittsburgh, but we're getting there. So once again, happy birthday, my friend. I hope it's a good one. Eddie the First, once again, anyone got eyes on Jacob? He will be back next Monday. This is the last week of his vacation. He's doing his overseas travels. He's having a great time. But when he comes back, we will have plenty of conversations to be had. Handyman Mexican, Tom Brady did play his rookie year. Yeah, later. And again, look at it's so difficult to argue the Will Howard thing because I think people just like latch onto it, and it's impossible to sit here and say like he's never going to become Tom Brady or Brock Purdy, nor do I want to put that out there because I want Will Howard to succeed. But sometimes realistically, you have to look at situations and like, I mean, if Will Howard was, let's just go off any other quarterback. Does anybody sit here like it? If you're sitting here with the same oomph about Will Howard, do you feel Kyle McCord is going to become a superstar quarterback? Do you feel Quinn Ewers is going to become a superstar quarterback? Do you feel Cam Miller is going to become a superstar quarterback? Like, I just feel as if you got to remove the bias and just look at it and say, I hope he develops. It's a bad move to start a 6th round rookie quarter. Just in the history of the NFL, it is a bad move to start a 6th round rookie quarterback, and it always has been. Raiders, Jacoby Myers should be targeted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a good one. I like Jacoby Myers. He's still young. I don't think his trade compensation would be very massive. I think you could get rid of or land him, for maybe a 4th round pick, which is pretty decent for what the Steelers are looking for. I also think he's a wide receiver 2 instantly for the Steelers, and that's what they're looking for is a wide receiver 2. I like Jacoby Myers. I've always liked Jacoby Myers. I think he's been a name that the Steelers should target. And I think at times I've definitely made some phone calls for him. I don't know if he's going to be on the market. I mean, the Steelers are the Raiders feel as if Pete Carroll and Geno Smith are going to save the franchise, and maybe that's the truth, and they'd want Jacoby Myers. But if he is there somehow, I mean, I think I would have him on the list for sure. Nate Moore's got another one. Christian Kirk. The Steelers loved Christian Kirk last year. I would not by any means be surprised if the Pittsburgh Steelers were interested in Christian Kirk again. And once he's fully healthy, which I don't, a broken collarbone at this point probably is pretty close to cleared. But if he's there right around training camp, I mean, I don't understand why he wouldn't. His contract kind of not great, but I do think that the Steelers, they don't have cap room yet. Once they extend TJ Watt, they'll have about $20 extra million in cap space. Right now, they have like almost $0 because you have $10 million available in free space that you want to go into the season with. You have $10 million for Aaron Rodgers, and then that's about it. Like, that's all your money that you have available. Once you extend TJ Watt, you'll turn his first year into a signing bonus. You will have probably an extra $20 million. At that point, Christian Kirk becomes an option. I do think he's a realistic name because the Jaguars continue to add pieces. Christian Kirk continues to fall down the roster, and the Steelers were a broken collarbone away from trading for him last season. I wouldn't rule out that they're looking to do it again. Potato salad. Steelers' definition of a playmaker was written in 1978. Shaking my head, Jonnu Smith. That's our replacement for George Pickens. Look at I look at Jonnu Smith and just say he's a safeguard for what the Steelers are trying to do. I don't believe the Pittsburgh Steelers offense this year is going to look anything like last year, like at all. It's going to look very different. I expect it to be much more shorter routes, tight end friendly, a lot of running plays, a lot of use of multiple running backs. That's where I see the Steelers offense. And because of that, tight ends work more than wide receivers do. And you'd love some big name wide receivers, but if your options are short routes consistently in a very West Coast style offense, maybe tight ends, work better. I wouldn't say the best. And I wouldn't say Jonnu Smith is the stud that the Steelers went out and got, but I do think he's better than, he's an upgrade to Ben Skoranek, Scotty Miller, and what was Van Jefferson last season. I will say that. I will definitely say that. All right, keeping it trucking here. As we look for more options, Cody Silva, can we just start one of the 2 quarterbacks that are going to be here next year? Why Rodgers for a year? I'd rather start the player that will be here longer term. Okay, so here's the situation with that in the eyes of the Steelers, not in the eyes of me. I could care less what the Steelers do. I'll give you my opinion on what I think they should do, but in the eyes of the Steelers is what matters. And in the eyes of the Steelers, they look at it very simply like if Mason Rudolph is the starter in 2025, he won't be the starter in 2026 unless something crazy happens. If Will Howard is the starter in 2025, the Steelers have sunk fast and things are bad. This is through the eyes of the Steelers. I mean, Will Howard's taken third string reps. I would imagine he takes fourth string reps once Aaron Rodgers shows up, and while he will definitely make the roster, they will not guarantee him a roster spot until the end of the summer. When it comes to Will Howard, they're going to look at it and say, unless something absolutely super crazy happens, Will Howard wouldn't be the starting quarterback in 2026. The starting quarterback in 2026 will most likely, almost definitely, be a first-round quarterback taken in next year's draft class. And they are well aware of that. Everybody is pretty well aware of that situation in like the organization and the facility and those who make those calls. And they look at all the options as, well, it doesn't really matter. They're all 1 year bridge guys. And next year we'll get our quarterback. And is it the best plan? No. Does it make sense though and lead the Steelers to probably a brighter future? For sure. Without question. Without question. Trade a tight end and let Connor Hayward walk from Marlon Lewis. Connor Hayward would be the name that I'd be watching here. Darnell Washington would be the other. He would definitely be the other. I don't think the Steelers would hold back on getting rid of or adding Darnell Washington to kind of boost trade compensation. And he's got way more value than Connor Hayward does. But I would be on your side and say that Connor would be the guy that I would let walk in these situations. Would let walk in these situations for sure. All right, keeping it trucking here. I've been doing my homework on Trey Palmer. What are your actual thoughts on him, Noah? From Maddie. Trey Palmer to me is a super, super speedy, athletic guy that is small. So he fits the bill of a Calvin Austin, bigger than Calvin Austin, but fits the bill of a Calvin Austin. I think he's a wide receiver 3 at best. I don't think he's got upside to be a wide receiver 2. I do think he adds a ton of speed to an offense that I expect to be very different than what it was a year ago. And those speedy over the middle type of guys should get more use in this offense than they did a year ago. So it works, but I don't think it raises the bar much for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Purple. All right, keeping it trucking here. Maddie, once again, his OTA is Monday through Thursday this week. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then next week will be the same for mandatory minicamp. But I'll be there tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, bringing you guys everything. And to be honest, this is the most boring week of Pittsburgh Steelers offseason work by far, because we're at the last week OTAs, still shorts and helmets. There are still guys that aren't here. Maybe some guys impress, but it's going to be a lot of undrafted guys showing up and looking good, which is exciting for me. But, you know, we've gone the Mason. You can only watch Mason Rudolph throw passes so many times before you sit here and go, all right, that looked like the same thing yesterday. So it's a good one. And then next week is minicamp. That's when minicamp's always good. Always good. Would we be okay with Sterling Shepard? Me think so. Okay. I like Sterling Shepard. I don't think Sterling Shepard does. Like I almost put Sterling Shepard more in the category of a Robert Woods than I do a flyer like a Roman Wilson or a Calvin Austin. To me, Sterling Shepard is deeper in his career. He's about 30 years old. I don't know how much juice he's got left. He's dealt with some injuries. I'm not against a Sterling Shepard, but I do think he has a potential outcome of a Van Jefferson, which is not what the Steelers are looking for. I like young. Go young. Get somebody who's going to be here for the next couple of years, who has a rookie contract, or even just the end of a rookie contract that you could extend for a cheaper amount of money. I don't know. I don't look at Sterling Shepard much higher than I do Robert Woods at this point in his career. Jermaine White, what are the Steelers waiting on to extend TJ? Are they waiting for Parsons' contract? No, I honestly think that they have an offer on the table for TJ Watt. And TJ is just not happy with it and wants more money. I would imagine the Steelers are lowballing him for sure. And that when it comes to guaranteed money and all that stuff, TJ's done taking hometown discounts. And he shouldn't take hometown discounts. At this point in his career, like he's done it, like he's earned every penny and is taken less than he's deserved. This is the year where a year ago you get him for cheap. Now you don't get him for cheap, and I think that's what's holding up the situation. I don't think it's the Steelers waiting on TJ. I think it's TJ not being satisfied with the Steelers offer. That's how I view it. Justin Gordon here. Mike T would be criticized and on the hot seat if we don't have success this year, regardless the QB, if we don't win playoff games. Yes and no. If Mason Rudolph's your quarterback in 2025, it's a pretty easy excuse to say that things didn't go well. If Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback in 2025, it's very easy to say Mike Tomlin messed up real bad and things are getting worse. But I do think that the pressure and the degree of the hot seat changes significantly with how it goes down. Like if Mason Rudolph's your quarterback and you go 9 wins and you don't make the playoffs, everybody's just saying, all right, well, you got to give him a shot with the rookie quarterback this coming season. If Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback and you win 9 games and you don't make the playoffs, the Pittsburgh Steelers will be viewed as the team that went from Kenny Pickett, which was a bad situation, to Justin Fields, which looked like a more promising situation, ruined the Justin Fields thing because of Mike Tomlin, and then held out for Aaron Rodgers instead of going a different direction, which again was Mike Tomlin, and then the Aaron Rodgers thing didn't work out. So at that point, you're looking at it going, there's almost no faith in Mike Tomlin to create a quality quarterback situation, which at that point is loud. Very, very loud. And I think it's the worst situation Mike Tomlin could be in. If the Aaron Rodgers thing happens and goes south fast, Mike Tomlin's in a situation he has never been in his 19-year career. And I'm not saying that he's on the hot seat. I'm just saying he's in a situation where the Steelers cannot trust him the way that they've trusted him in the past because of the quarterback situation. Justin, keeping it going. Aaron Rodgers could suck if he signs, and any rookie in any round could boom or bust. So why not take Sanders in the 4th where the risk is lower and still sign Aaron Rodgers? The Steelers, look at the in the same realm of Mike Tomlin deserves the hot seat and everything if Aaron Rodgers misses. The Pittsburgh, and this is a report, this is not just speculation, this is how things went down in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Steelers organization, top to bottom, outside of Mike Tomlin, did not want Shedeur Sanders. They made it abundantly clear to Mike Tomlin that if he is the one to choose Shedeur Sanders, he is the one whose name is attached to Shedeur Sanders, but nothing else, but no one else. And in that case, just like Aaron Rodgers, if Shedeur does not work out, it is on Mike Tomlin and things become very, very loud and distracting. So Mike Tomlin had literally zero support on the Shedeur Sanders thing. He doesn't have much on Aaron Rodgers, but he had actually no support for Shedeur Sanders in Pittsburgh. The entire organization did not want him, and that's why they didn't go after him. Now, it doesn't make sense. I don't know. I don't think Shedeur Sanders ever turns out to be anything great. But I do think that you give yourself an option that might turn out to be better than Mason Rudolph, and they don't have that right now. So I hear where you're coming from. I wouldn't have chased Aaron Rodgers this long, if we're going to be very honest. I don't think there was a better situation, but I do think the Steelers right now, if Carson Wentz and Mason Rudolph are your 2 guys, or you went out and traded for a Tyrod Taylor and Mason Rudolph are competing for the starting job, like at least you're looking at things going, well, at least it's here and we see what happens. If Shedeur Sanders is here in the 4th round, at least he's here and you see what happens. But just from the Steelers side of things, reporting in my job's to report what I know. I do know that the Steelers brass. It was Mike Tomlin versus everybody else in the Shedeur Sanders crowd. Cody Silva, I sent you an email on how terrible Fields was last year. Check it out when you get a chance. It was bad. $40 million is a loss for Fields. Look, I think Justin Fields wasn't perfect last year, and I think there were a lot of mistakes. I also think that in the crowd of quarterback options this year, adding a 26-year-old quarterback that you would have only had for 1 year, essentially guaranteed, which I wouldn't have guaranteed Jets money. So, I don't look at Justin Fields as like the guy who got away from the Steelers. I look at him as, if you don't screw him over and, he goes on to finish the season exactly how he started it, he probably signs for a contract that guarantees 1 year. And you're comfortable with that. So that's how I view Fields. I don't know what he turns into. I don't know if he ever turns into anything. I do know that he was fighting significantly from behind because the offense was developed for Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields is a totally different guy. I do think that he had terrible wide receiver options and that Mike Tomlin wouldn't let him do anything else besides just throw safe passes to George Pickens. So I don't know what Justin Fields becomes. I don't think he was the best quarterback last year. I wouldn't ever argue that. But I do think that if you had him for 1 year, 2-year deal, 1 year guaranteed, where the second year you're not, if he stinks, you move on. You at least give yourself a shot for some upside, for a guy who is a running quarterback and maybe turns into something. And maybe he stinks, but I think it's less pressure on the entire organization if he stinks after saying, we're going to take a shot on a guy that was in-house. At that point, he just isn't good. He just isn't good. All right, keeping it trucking, and I will check out that email for sure. All right, no Cove Gauls. If I had that much juice, I'd be stopping at least 3 times on the way. And this took me a second, and then it caught me. Dude, the juices from Factor, check them out. They are fantastic. Nate Moore, also wondering if Adam Thielen is still going to be talked about as an option for the Steelers. I don't think so. The Steelers have their veteran guy in Robert Woods. They're looking younger options from everything I've heard. Even Jonnu Smith is a little bit older from what they're looking for. The names that I've had floated to me is not like anybody they've called about, but just potential candidates are younger. To me, Adam Thielen's too old to make a deal for. If you need him in week 8 and you're saying he's the missing piece to the Super Bowl, you trade for him. But in June, I don't think he's the option you're looking for. Eddie the First, what's the over-under Rodgers gets booed off the field game 1 if we sign him? I would say whatever it is, I'm shooting the under because I don't think week 1, I think by week 1, everything's pretty tame and calm and things are fine. I think day 1 of training camp, there's some animosity towards Aaron Rodgers and people not super excited about the quarterback that is on the field for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I don't think it's going to be as brutal as it is the first day of Latrobe compared to week 1, unless he's terrible. If he's terrible, it's over. It's absolutely over. All right, looking to continue these bad boys. Appreciate you guys. So much comments, so much conversation in the chat for sure. A lot of Stephon Diggs comments, which is always hilarious. A lot of people asking questions to other people, so I appreciate all you guys. Eric Winslow, why do the Steelers receivers get that Divas demon? Look at, I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh. I think a lot of wide receivers across the league are viewed pretty much the same. But you got to look at it and say they're still great players, and they've always kind of had that. But I don't know. Where we stand right now, I just don't. I don't think it's Pittsburgh. I think it's everybody. Yinzer Joe, Noah, why does everyone think if Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up and go to camp, it's a failure on all parts? I mean, wasn't Arthur a Decibel of LaFleur in Tennessee. Aaron could do that in his sleep. Aaron Rodgers, look it, I'm not on the boat of Arthur Smith, Matt LaFleur run the same offense. Similarities for sure, but I don't think that they run the same offense and things are going to be very different. It also comes down to chemistry. That being said, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to be here right now. I don't care that Aaron Rodgers isn't here. It means nothing to me that he's not at OTAs. It means nothing to me if he's not at minicamp. Training camp's the spot. However, him not signing and continuing to not guarantee the Steelers is even worse than 2 years ago when he guaranteed the Jets that he was coming, and then it just took him 2 months to show up. Like, if that's the case, okay, at least you're there. But just where we are right now, where things are today, it's more Aaron is holding the Steelers, wrapping the Steelers around his finger and keeping them there and playing games. And that's not cool, but he's playing games. He's hinting at the Steelers, but not guaranteeing himself to the Steelers. He won't say the Pittsburgh Steelers name on podcasts, but he'll say things like, oh, a team that plays the Bears, but he's not signed. He's playing games with them. And I think that's the part that kind of like should bother people. Him not being here, who cares? He's 41 years old. He doesn't need OTAs at all. No Coast Golf, is the offensive line finally good enough for a Mason level quarterback to succeed? It seems that even with a decent quarterback the last few years, our line has hurt the O's performance. That's super true. The offensive line this year has the pieces in place. I can't guarantee it's going to work out. That's what they've done though. They've invested. They got Zach Frazier. They got Troy Fautano. They got Broderick Jones. They got Mason McCormick. They kept Isaac Seumalo. They have the offensive line's built. They've invested in it. They've done what they've needed to do. Now it's about, can it work? Does it work? Which we won't know that until week 1, week 2, week 3. Like, it's a matter of how good they can be, not did they put the pieces together. If they are good, I don't think that it comes down to, can a Mason level quarterback succeed? I think it's how good can the running game be, and if the Steelers could win through the ground with some passing and their defense, which is a offense that works. Like, you could win games, a lot of them in the NFL, with that play style. Do the Steelers do it? I mean, that's, again, comes down to, does it all work? Does it all mesh? The offensive line will be the biggest part of that. We'll find out, though. The pieces are there. It's just a matter of if it all actually works. Pittsburgh Hornets what was Tomlin thinking getting Wilson and Arthur Smith last year? Doesn't he know FedEx can't deliver when it comes to Wilson's? Yo, so awesome. So awesome. Fantastic comment here. Look at FedEx. Done, bro. Done. I told my wife this morning. It was the first thought on my mind when I woke up this morning. I said, all right, this is week 3 of trying to get this package here. And I think I've X'd FedEx from the list. Anybody who ever delivers from FedEx, I just won't purchase from. And if you ever buy a t-shirt from Black and Gold Apparel and it comes from FedEx, you let me know, because I'll change that tomorrow. Tomorrow we will have new shipping. So no chance. No chance. Bless Light, we are not winning a Super Bowl this year. Start Howard, and if he stinks, then great. We will just have a higher pick in 26. It's the Steelers team is built to win. They just don't have a quarterback, which I get it is the biggest piece to winning. But you can't tell TJ Watt come in here for the first year last deal and stink. You can't tell Cam Hayward we're going to waste your last season in the NFL. You can't tell DK Metcalf we just traded for you to suck. You can't do these things. You can't. You're going to lose the team. You're going to lose the coaching staff. The things that come with being really bad are way more than just being really bad. Look at the teams that are at the top of the draft picks every year. Look at the coaching turnovers. Look at the stars that leave. Like, it is so difficult to fall and sink to the bottom and climb your way back up. And I get it. People will say, well, Jaden Daniels did it for the Washington Commanders last year. Yeah, that's awesome. But how bad were the Commanders before Jaden Daniels? Bad. And how long were they bad? A while. It's just the things that fall apart when you sink are way worse. And people will say, well, the team's put together and everything's great. Yeah, but who's not coming back? You know, who doesn't want to come back anymore because of how bad this team is? Who in free agency doesn't want to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers because of how bad they are and how they're going backwards instead of forwards? There's nothing to tell you that they're going forwards. It's just, it would be bad. It would be bad. It would be bad. Berg fan, how's the speech coming? Haven't even started it at all. But that being said, we are a week, 5 days away from the wedding. The wedding is Saturday. And I talked to my brother, who is also the best man, and there's two of us, and he also has not started the speech. So we're in great shape. We're in great shape. I said there's a 50% chance I walk up there and just spitball it, and we'll see what happens. And I don't know if it's going to happen, but I don't know how much I trust myself, but there's a chance that that's how that goes down. There's a chance that that's how that goes down for sure. For sure. All right, keeping a truck in here. Grayson the Ginger, I've heard that Darnell Washington is looking like a beast and has shown a lot of improvement. How true are these claims? I don't know if I would say Darnell Washington looks like a beast. I mean, I think Darnell Washington's a good football player, so I wouldn't look at Darnell Washington and say like, oh, he's so significantly better from last season. I just don't know if you could even say that at OTAs. But I do think Darnell Washington has a lot of value if he's utilized correctly. I don't think he's ever been utilized correctly. So I'm excited to see where it goes in the future with Darnell Washington. But I wouldn't say he looks like a beast or has shown a lot of improvement. I mean, it's 3 days of OTAs, helmets and shorts, no real contact. It's tough to say a guy that's like saying Mason McCormick looks like a stud. I have no idea. We'll find out in training camp how good Darnell Washington really is this season. Scary Terry, I want to say yes. I want to say yes for the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, when it comes to Scary Terry, I mean, great option, probably too expensive and pushing 30. Which means that by the time that you get your quarterback in place and developed and all these things, you have 2 wide receivers just about 30 years old on massive deals. That's not ideal for the Steelers. That's not ideal. If you have a younger guy and DK Metcalf, it's more ideal, but I just don't look at it and get very excited about Terry McLaurin because of the age, not the ability or the contract. Grayson the Ginger, hey Noah, do you know if Broderick Jones had his elbow fixed? I know that he was bothering him last season along with playing right tackle instead of left tackle. Also, do you know if Troy Fautanu is progressing? Troy looks great, real explosive. Talked to him, had a real good conversation about how good he's feeling, which is awesome. We'll see more come training camp when, offensive linemen can actually put themselves out there. When it comes to Broderick, I don't believe he had anything done to his elbow. I'm not 100% sure on that one. It was more just had to let it heal type situation. We'll see. We'll see what happens as we move forward. But I don't. I look at Broderick Jones and say there are a lot of reasons he didn't do well last season. None of them more than his handwork being just awful. So he's got to progress on that. I'm hoping the left side is more natural. We'll see what happens. I don't think he had anything done, but I am a Broderick guy. I think he's the nicest human on the offensive line, maybe, and it's a really nice offensive line. So I'm rooting for him, but talent wise, you gotta figure some stuff out. All right. With that said, guys, I'm heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check me out anywhere you get your podcast. Please, please, please go to those Apple Podcasts, hit download all, and give us a 5-star review. And as always, you can find all of my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. It's a beautiful one today in the Berg. Tomorrow I'll be at OTAs. Very exciting. Are excited to bring you guys everything that happens in week 2 and the final week of organized team activities. And with that said, it's a good one. Go enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.